Hey guys, what's up? I got everybody here from TMI. Don't forget to write us an email at tmipodcast2018. That's tmipodcast2018 at gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Also, check us out on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. Just use the numbers, don't spell it out.
Ooh, don't forget Facebook.com/TMI podcast 2018.
Follow us on the Apple Podcast app. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review.
All you YouTubers out there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, TMI Podcast 2018. Look for the popcorn bucket.
That's right. Also, check us out on Spotify and a Google Play Music app for all you Android users. Follow us and subscribe everywhere. We appreciate it. We're doing it for you guys, the fans. Thank you.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Dave Odinson Warhowski, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, Mike Mjolnir Evans, and Danielle, that's what she said, Warhowski. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Oh yeah, here we are. Back from a galaxy far, far away.
Nice. So, Lo, yeah, see what I did there? That was good, right?
Nice, right off the bat.
That was good.
Wow.
I guess that's where we're going to start. Everybody here saw it?
I believe that we all did. We all had an assignment and we all actually watched.
Yeah, we did. The films have been coming out just hot and heavy for the past 3 weeks. It's hard to keep
May.
up with everything.
It is hard to
that's
keep
coming out.
up.
The month of
Especially
May
looking
has
at
been
the summer
busy.
schedule, it's like, oh man, there's a lot coming down the pike.
And, we'll totally get to TV eventually. It's just right now, this month, while we're doing this, it's just movies galore. And everyone's excited about that, obviously. And
Yes, and we cannot fall behind on the wayside. There's,
right.
1,000 other podcasts nipping at our heels with reviews of Solo. We got to get ours out there.
Listen, let's not talk about nipping at your heels.
That's right. And just want to say, too, big shout out to everyone that's partaking in these images that we're posting about, your favorite movie or your a movie,
it's fun. It's fun.
a movie
Facebook.
that other people like, or whatever the heck that picture was. A movie that everybody likes, but you dislike.
You
or
don't.
something,
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining in on the conversation, guys. We appreciate it, and it's a lot of fun hearing what everybody else has
and
to say.
thanks to my cousin Patricia, who she consistently answers all those questions. So thank you. So for starting those trails.
Your royalty check is in the mail.
So where do we want to start?
Wow, let's go. I think let's start with the mic first.
No, you know what, Jeff? This is your wheelhouse. Why don't you go for it?
Wow. I'm going to say right now that I know for a fact that there's going to be some issues within this group concerning this movie.
Like, do we need to give the spoiler?
Oh yeah, well let's say it straight up fact, which is if you've not seen this movie, please turn us off. Don't listen to someone else's podcast.
But come back after you
come back.
Yes.
Go. I recommend going out and seeing this movie immediately, and then you can come back and partake in our conversation. I will say that this is one of my better theater experiences in quite a while. I know, Jim, you talk about specifically the old school single screen kind of standalone theater, the intimacy of it and whatnot. I had the opposite, which is I went to this huge, I happened to be in Jersey Shore this weekend, and I went to, it's called the Escape Theater, and this thing is mammoth. You walk in and it is stadium seating. It is IMAX size screen. It is unbelievable with reclining chairs. And I loved it. It was like I was like at home with the biggest television in my face that I could possibly. I mean, there were points in this movie where the theater was shaking, and so I was just completely immersed. I think the pacing was a little off early on. It took a little bit to get going. I really, really like this kid playing Han Solo. He's not Harrison Ford by any means. And I don't think that he tried to be Harrison Ford. I think he kind of picked up. And again, it took a little bit to kind of pick up on his cockiness, pick up a little bit on his nuances. Once we were introduced to Chewbacca, I thought the movie just took off. This was the sexiest Chewbacca I have seen since Return of the Jedi. No, really. I mean, you saw a fighting, running, engaged Chewbacca. He was awesome to watch. I loved him. I didn't like the whole I speak Wookiees and here we are back and forth. It was kind of hokey.
Well, if he understands him, you would think that he would be able to communicate.
But if Chewbacca understands English, all I have to say is, dude, I understand you. You don't have to breathe. So part of my issue and part of my questions going into this was, the two directors who they originally hired, Lord and Miller, who directed the Lego Movie, which blew me away. It was a movie, a kind of a throwaway kid movie. You never think much about it. And it was so subservient and it was so funny and in-jokey. And so they hired these guys to make this movie. And then like 5 months in, they pull the plug. They fire them and bring in Ron Howard. So I don't know how much of this movie, from what I understand, Ron Howard basically went back and refilmed this whole thing. Why hire a director like that if you know what you're going to get with them? So I don't understand, what could have been. It's kind of like the Ant-Man when Edgar Wright was pulled. You don't know what it could have been. I did like it a lot. The music I thought was substandard. It was serviceable. Although there's a scene early on where Han and his girlfriend there, Kira, who is our goddess of dragons, mother of dragons, and they're in the station trying to escape. And there's an advertisement on the wall for join the Imperial Navy. And they use the Imperial theme. And I thought that was so kind of like an in-joke almost, but I loved it. Otherwise the music just it didn't really add much to the story itself whatsoever. Every now and again, you'd catch a theme of, Darth Vader, or you'd catch some of this other stuff, but it didn't really do much for me. Woody Harrelson just plays Woody Harrelson. I'm sorry. The minute I saw that he was cast in this movie, I kind of like, well, whatever. And again, he was serviceable, but he wasn't a great character. Who I did like, and he didn't last very long, was Jon Favreau's character, Rio. The little four-armed guy, yeah. Right? He was cool. He was fun.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a rocket type of a character. He was going along with the adventure, and then boom, he's gone.
Yeah. It
was almost like they needed him to be out of the picture just so you could bring Han up and he prove what a great pilot he was.
Mm-hmm.
What about Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss?
To be honest with you, I never even picked up on that. That was Paul Bettany.
What?
Yeah, no, I was invested in the characters. I don't necessarily look and be like, oh, look, that's him. I didn't pick up on that. I liked his scarred face. I wanted to know more about that and what was going on. Warwick Davis shows up. And from what I understand, he's playing the same character that he played in episode 1, which is this little arms dealer named Weasel. So the one thing, and I know we can get to the big reveal at the end of the movie, which I'm sure most of us are like, what? Wait, what? But the one thing with so Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back, among many other movies, Lawrence Kasdan and his son wrote this movie. And the one thing I really like is that carry through with the dice.
Yeah.
That it was a thematic theme. You hear, Han Solo is constantly talking about, luck doesn't exist in my universe type of thing. And yet these were his little lucky charms. And there's such a throwaway scene in the first Star Wars you see them once and then they're never shown again. And yet in Last Jedi, they become this major plot point where Luke is like handing them to Leia. Although we can go on about how that actually happened since he was a...
Yeah, I feel the only reason they were in there was because of The Last Jedi. Like they were meaningless before The Last Jedi.
But I like the fact that they carried some weight to it now. Yeah. That there was a little bit of a carryover with the character. I will say I absolutely despised L3.
Oh my God.
I will say
I can totally agree with you there. It was just so annoying. I thought it was just so annoying.
Right.
Like L3, it was just like this woman or whatever, this robot comes out of nowhere, thinks she's all, hot stuff there. And I'm just like, this is dumb. Listen, I'm a tough critic on this one. And
yeah, I can imagine.
All right. So, but it was just blah.
I was waiting for Danielle because to me, she was like one step away from Dot Matrix from Spaceballs. Really. It was just... Although I did like the fact that when she died, they interfaced her into the Falcon. I thought that was kind of a cool thing. And I loved Lando Calrissian. I'm telling you, this guy killed it as that character. It was absolutely... He
did. And I was very impressed how he was able to channel Billy D in this.
Yeah. Well, he was just that suave. He was just that debonnaire, nothing.
You talk about how his name's Alden Ehrenreich, the guy that played Han.
Oh, yes.
And how, you got flavor of Harrison Ford every once in a while, like with his grin and with some other physical tics, but he wasn't really doing an impersonation. But Donald Glover, on the other hand, was fully channeling Billy D, like to great effect. And I think he did a great job with it on his own.
I agree. Yeah.
My favorite was, taking out the fact that Chewie was in the movie. So that would, of course, be my favorite. But Kira, who I basically spent the whole movie going, who is this?
So see, you busted me for not recognizing Paul Bettany, but you didn't even recognize the
name. But that's the vision.
Yeah. But I didn't know that
it wasn't red.
It was Amelia Clark until I got home and had to Google it. And I'm like, are you
son of a...
You didn't know?
No.
Oh, there you go. See?
Oh my God.
You see, I was convinced that L3 was Tilda Swinton, the voice of... But it was.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's...
The voice of who?
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, you know what's funny was that Danielle and I both thought it was the woman... I don't even know how you pronounce her name. The woman from Game of Thrones who plays Brienne, is it?
Oh,
the big tall
Gwendolyn. Yeah.
Gwendolyn. Yeah. We thought it was her, and we actually stayed for the credit to see who it was, and it wasn't.
It turned out to be Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
as a cameo.
But yeah.
So I loved it as well.
I really enjoyed it. I do. There's a sticking point, and I know we're going to get to it.
I thought it was very reminiscent of Rogue One in the fact that, and I hate to use this term because it's being thrown around in all these reviews, a heist movie. But it is like, in the same vein as like an Ocean's 11 where they've got to pull off the big job. And that was the same with Rogue One with getting the plans. And they even to the and I didn't really appreciate L3 either, but even the uppity droid was featured in both movies. And
to better effect by Alan.
Yes, to much better effect. And with the L3 thing, I don't think droids should be that full of personality. They should really be like in the C-3PO kind of vein, rather than being argumentative. Also, because who would program a robot to do that, really? But
I think that. Well, I guess you could argue that over time you become sentient. And now we're just getting into like Westworld territory. But go ahead.
That was one of my issues with it. Was a heist movie. And it was two heists for the same thing. And I was just...
Yes, it was. They didn't succeed the first time, so I had to go back out and try it the second time.
I felt like I had seen the heist for the hyperfluid, and then I saw the heist for the hyperfluid again. And I'm like, what? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Right. And I love the names of the stuff that they come up with. Coaxium was the actual element, the fuel that they were going for, which reminded me of WALL-E right off the bat, because that was Coaxium, right? The ship that they were on.
Hey, it could have been unobtainium.
Yeah, but I liked Alden's portrayal of Han. I thought the action pieces were very well done. The train robbery in the beginning,
it was a
with
lot
the whole drama
good
with the
effects.
bridge being blown.
Yeah, Thandie Newton, man, she didn't last very long, right?
No, I know. And just, I had just seen Westworld as well, season
There you
1. So
go.
I was like, oh, there she is.
So
But
here's my question to the group. Did anyone feel like that meeting on the yacht with Kira was a little bit contrived? I mean, you're kind of like, he's been out for 3 years, he's got to get back to the planet, and then he just bumps into her.
Yes, no, it is an absolute convenient plot device that she just happens to be on this ship. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It was a little forced.
I mean, I really like the character, and I hope to see her in a sequel. But when they just sort of bumped into each other, I'm like, all right, come on.
Right. And could we say that Dryden Voss is so encompassing that he was aware of Han's involvement in this and kind of positioned her there?
It would have
That would
taken
be tough to say for a 3-year build-up to that moment.
Right.
Maybe, the coincidence was her just working for him, and then he kind of interjects her into the mix.
Yeah.
Who knows? But you know what I had an issue with was the first card game between Lando and Han.
Okay.
And Han loses.
The Sabacc.
Yeah, Han loses a ship that he doesn't have, which is never brought up again. So you would think Lando
would be like pissed. Yeah,
he'd be pissed, and he wouldn't give up the Falcon. It would be, okay, we're even. Now you don't give me a ship, you don't get a ship.
Right.
But yeah, he just gives it up. He's like, okay, you win.
Well, but he needed them to get it out of impound. He was actually using them, I think, as much as they were using him. He wasn't quite as much in control as he made it out to be. And I was happy they downplayed the whole Playboy aspect of the Falcon being like this.
Yes, you had serious issues with that.
I did. And they were much relieved.
I didn't really see. I hope he doesn't really, freak out, because I wasn't seeing anything to be mad about.
No, not at all. I was actually very happy. So yeah, no, they went out of their way. Oh, go ahead.
Since that's your second tier character, the Falcon.
Yeah,
it was all shiny and new.
I love the fact that it was just beaten to shit by the end of the movie. It was great. And the whole big leading up to this movie, when the toy reveal and they've got you realize that the mandibles on the front are enclosed, and it's, oh my God, this is not the same Falcon. What's going on? And it was such just a throwaway, I added an escape pad or an escape pod, and then he just jettisons it in the maw in order to escape.
I did like the scene with Chewie and the what's the hologram chess.
Oh yes, yeah,
yes.
He's kind of pounding the table, and the holograms are sort of still staying there. It was a great scene for me.
Yeah. I will follow that for 1 second, only because I'm a huge fan. So Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren and all these original guys back in ILM back in 75, 76 making this movie, those characters were all, stop motion. You move them a half an inch, you take a picture, you move them another half an inch, and when they came time to the 97 re-release, Lucas went back in and just tinkered with everything. And one of the things they did was delete 2 of the characters in the special edition. They deleted 2 of the pieces that exist on the chess pieces. So during that scene, when Chewie's getting frustrated, he pounds his fist on the Dejeric board, or whatever you want to call it, and those 2 figures disappear. Like, it was kind of like a call out to the fact that they existed in the original version of Star Wars. I didn't catch it at the time. I read about it afterwards, but I'm like, that's kind of cool.
I think it would have been appropriate if Chewie actually ripped someone's arms off while playing chess.
But he did take off the arms of 2 of those guys, right? He came up with the 2 arms in his hand. Yeah. So, I want to hear more about what David's issues are.
No, it was just the movie was very predictable.
I think that's the problem with these kind of standalone movies is, right, they hit all the right beats. Oh, here he meets Chewbacca. Oh, here he makes the Kessel Run. Oh, here's where he shoots first.
Yeah,
which I thought was the fact that he, it was almost like Ron Howard or Kasdan or whoever, how much control the director has over the writing, that he shot Beckett's mid-sentence, and he just shoots him. And it just negates the entire last 40 years of Han shot first, Han didn't shoot first.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, no,
but,
and it was just
is predictable.
Like, there was, like Jim said, the action scenes were very well done and all that. And I mean, certain parts that stuck out to me too was, when Han was running through the ship to get to the basically the cockpit, if you will, of it, like the camera followed him and was like running with him too, and it like you could see like the movement of like the camera, and like I thought that was like a really cool little throwaway scene, but like there were certain parts like that were intriguing, but just even like the plot to the movie as well, and like the story to the movie, like it was, I guess like Jim said too, or it was like or was it you that said Oceans? It was like an Oceans whatever 12 or
let's go get that MacGuffin.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was expecting more of like the Star Wars-ish side of things, but I mean, it was good for what it was, but it's not one of my favorites. Not one of my favorites. So
okay.
I mean, the bits that I liked about it the most were the things that weren't necessarily in canon, or previously released in canon. So the Dryden Voss character, the Marauders. I found that was interesting because they were introducing something new. I mean, and of course, you had to do the Han and Chewie, meetup, which I thought was done really well. But I also felt like, I kind of like knew where this movie was going the whole time.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
No, I agree. I don't think it was going to veer from what you expected.
And Chewie as the Beast, it turns out that Chewie is the Beast. Now, did Chewie eat people? Is that
that was questionable. That was like, because he did say, I have not fed him in 3 days. So, he did see a little emaciated.
Yeah, and I would have kind of liked them to not over-explain a lot of stuff from the past. Like they had to go through, and have him do the Kessel Run in this movie. I kind of would have liked to leave that to the imagination.
Yeah, no, I felt that that's exactly what they were going to do. They were going to hit all those beats. I will say that the guy next to me must have dragged his children and his wife with him, because throughout the entire movie, he was very concerned that his kids were having a good time. But anytime there was any kind of reference to something else, he felt the need to lean into his wife. He's like, he's talking about Jabba the Hutt. It's Jabba the Hutt. And I'm like, dude, if you don't shut up, I'm going to. Oh, my God. I'm glad there was no scoundrel nerf herder reference. They didn't like mine every line of dialogue that Han Solo's ever had in the previous 3-4 movies. But it's like, all right, so it was very much like you said, a heist / Western. There was a lot of over the hip shots with Clint Eastwood type of things, confronting the bad guys with his gun in his holster kind of feel. So it's almost like they went out of their way to give Paul Bettany's character Dryden these laser blade things. Like we just can't have a Star Wars movie without a lightsaber or something that's glowing. It just, it can't just be a shoot 'em up movie or whatever. So I thought
what do they call the things that power the lightsaber?
No, the Kyber crystals.
The Kyber crystals. Yeah, I assume that's what Dryden Voss had in his little.
Well, so go back to his office. I mean, that thing was a treasure trove of collectibles. And the one thing I will say, and this feeds directly into the big reveal with Kira and the ultimate guy in control of the Crimson Dawn, is the fact that they went so far back into all of the what used to be called the expanded universe. This is all the comic books and the novels and the West End RPG role-playing games in the 80s and 90s that are now no longer canon, because once Disney took them over, they said no, none of that stuff counts. But they're starting to pull this stuff. It was an Easter egg extravaganza. The planet he was on when he's in the military and they're fighting on the Saving Private Ryan in the trenches. That's Mimbar. Mike's will recognize that. The very first novel that ever came out after Star Wars was called Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and that is the planet that Luke and Leia are on, trying to find a Kyber crystal, which has also now become canon. Some of the references of the planets, the characters. I mean, you heard them name drop Aura Singh, who was a bounty hunter for a split second in episode 1. Bosk wasn't mentioned. There's just so many of these kind of, if you're like this diehard Star Wars fan, you're picking up on all this stuff and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they just mentioned this. Even Londo, when he was doing his little YouTube video, he was making that little hologram. He was talking about an adventure he had in one of the novels. So it's like all this stuff that's kind of throwaway, but to like the nerd Star Wars fan, you're picking up on all this. And I think that hurt the fact when they revealed the bad guy, because if you just saw nothing but the movies, you're like, wait a minute, I thought he died. Like, where did he come from?
So let's not beat around the bush.
So let's not beat around the bush. So I'm going to hold on. I'm going to ask Mike. So Mike.
Oh, hello.
Hello. So one of the things I was talking about is the fact that the Kasdans went back and mined so much of the old school extended universe novels, comic books, pulling out character names. And one of the things I mentioned was Mimbar, where he was on when they were fighting, when he first met Tobias Beckett. Mimbar is the planet that Luke and Leia are on in the novel Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Okay.
You know that book, right? It was like the first.
I do know that book. That's the only book that I've read.
Okay, but that was like that was like the only thing that ever came out after Star Wars. I remember being in a grocery store and seeing that cover from like a mile away, and I'm like, I need that book, and begging my mother for it. So they're pulling all this stuff out that is like to the diehard people, the Star Wars fans, they're picking up on all these planets, they're picking up on all these character names. The Cloud Riders came directly from Marvel, the Marvel run back in the day. They mentioned Aura Singh, who was a character in episode 1. She was the white albino long-fingered bounty hunter who you see when Anakin is in the pod race.
Yeah. She
shows up on a balcony overlooking the race for like a split second. But they made a point of mentioning her. Bosk was mentioned in this. Scarif, that's where the whole end part of Rogue One takes place, and they mentioned that. They name dropped that. So the thing for me, which was, if you're not caught up, so the only other thing, which is the Clone Wars cartoon and Rebels, are both considered canon. So anything that happens within those storylines or those cartoons carry over into these movies. If you go back to the last Jedi, when they use these hammerhead Corellian ships or whatever, you find out in Rebels how they actually acquired them. And so when Darth Maul is revealed as the ultimate bad guy, and it was played by Ray Parks, the same guy who played him in episode 1, your first reaction, if you only saw these movies, you'd be like, wait a minute, where the hell did he come from? How did he survive? But all of that is revealed. Not only is it revealed in the Clone Wars how he survived, and he has the mechanical metallic legs, but you also know in Rebels how he dies. So this is kind of like just filling in the gap. But if you don't know any of that stuff, you're left. I mean, I would think that you're left walking out of the building going, "Wait a minute, how is this? Why?"
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking because I've never seen an episode of Clone Wars or Rebels.
Highly
recommend. I had to look it up, online, like his to make sure that it was Darth Maul at the end and not just another
whatever his species is.
So then I read the history, and then I was just so impressed that they even made the attempt to bring, even though that is canon, to bring that into the movies and to take that risk.
Yeah.
Of confusing people and making them go and perhaps go catch up, which is what I want to do now.
There you go. I guess at the same time, you could have been like, why do we need to reintroduce a Jedi into a Han Solo movie?
Because it was really popular.
Boba Fett would have been much more. If you want to go, it's been established that Boba Fett is in this guy's world at some point. You're already leading into the fact that he's heading to Tatooine to be a part of this job with Jabba. So why couldn't it have been Boba Fett? Why couldn't it have been somebody else besides another Jedi? And he just felt the need to light up his lightsaber for the sake of saying, "Hey, look, I have a lightsaber."
Oh, I think that we have not seen the end of Boba Fett.
They just announced that James Mangold is set to direct. Now I don't know if he wrote it, but he directed Logan. And if they go down that road, the way that he portrayed Logan, I'm in.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, will Boba Fett even still happen after the box office for Solo wasn't so good
I don't
either?
think that that's going to. You know what? We're talking about 5 months. What they need to realize is that, they talk about putting out a Star Wars movie once a year. So put it out every 12 months. Now, I mean, Last Jedi just came out in December.
Yeah, it was close to it too as well. But do you think it even has something possibly that Disney has to do with it? You know?
As far
Disney's
as
been ruining a whole bunch of stuff recently, I think, honestly, in my opinion. But
I mean, they see dollar signs. It's the word Solo had a big dollar sign in front of it.
Well, it wasn't that big.
It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie in any way, shape, or form. I was thoroughly enjoyed by it. Will this kill it because it didn't meet expectations? I don't think so.
Right.
Well, I think I read somewhere that it's one of the most expensive films ever made.
Yeah,
so,
they said
because they paid 3 directors.
Right. It cost $300 million to make. I think.
They were 5 months into filming. That's crazy. Most movies are complete in 5 months. They had to go back, and from what I understand, I mean, Ron Howard. And let's talk about the Clint Howard cameo. We can't have a Ron Howard movie without his brother showing up.
His brother, yeah, Clint Howard,
who's been in every
Ron Howard movie.
And they couldn't even put a mask on him. It's just, look, there's Ron Howard with long hair, and he's,
So
Wars.
We're running on a half hour now.
All right.
Talking about Solo. So to wrap up the Solo, what would you rate it out of 10? Or let's get it out of 5 stars.
Or how about actually in our lineup of Star Wars movies? Like, where would you rank it? Just like we did the Marvel rankings.
I'm not prepared for that question.
I am not prepared. I can't go on record.
And that could take a half hour alone.
But what David said is it's not your standard Star Wars movie. Neither was Rogue One. But Rogue One sits pretty high on Jim's list. It's a great movie. It's a fun movie. I'm seeing reviews where people are like, did these people who made this movie not even see the Star Wars movie? It doesn't, just because it takes place in the same universe doesn't mean it need. That's why they're doing these movies, is that you have your own flavor and your own flair.
And those people talk just like that too. Come on,
that's the way I read them whenever.
It's the Swedish chef from the Muppet Show.
So for me, I'm going to say I like Rogue One better, and I'm going to give it 3 stars. Thumb sideways.
Thumb sideways.
Those thumb sideways can go.
I want the rewatch.
I have to go at least 1 up. If you're gonna, I did like Rogue One though. I like that a lot.
See, I think 5 stars for anything is too much. 5 stars has to be the pinnacle of films for me. If you're gonna give something 5 stars,
it better be Alien.
Nothing better. It better be Alien. But so with that in mind, I would give Solo 3 3/4, 4, around there. Okay, round it up to 4.
I would go 4 at least. I did like it. I think it requires repeat viewing.
Sorry, I only give it a 2.
David didn't like it.
2.
I'm sorry, I didn't like it much.
What about Danielle? We haven't heard a single word from Danielle. Did she not find Alden sexy?
She may have fell asleep.
I think Chewbacca was sexy. I'm backing this up right now. This is such a great.
Like you said though too, when Chewbacca came into the picture, it was just like, okay, this is good. All right, yeah, this is gonna be enjoyable. It's gonna be a little bit more enjoyable now. That was my.
Were you worried that Lumpy was gonna show up when he was liberating those Wookiees?
Oh my god.
the
invasion.
But they did throw in Chewbacca's home planet, which they have in the original trilogy. Well, yeah, but that originated from the holiday special.
This actually, bringing back in Darth Maul and some of the other stuff kind of legitimizes the prequels.
Yeah, I guess it does.
Yeah. So
when you say Chewbacca was never sexier since Return of the Jedi, was it because of his bangs? Is that why?
I think so. I think I have the way that his hair hangs down. I mean, he was all muddy or whatever. How about the scene where he's in the shower with Han? Because we could have done this at separate times. I thought that was pretty funny.
It was a good scene.
So what was Danielle's take on it?
I liked it.
She liked it.
I liked it.
It was enjoyable. I'm not overanalyzing or underanalyzing. Had a lot of good action.
As much as David.
It had humor. It had Chewie. It was good.
Oh, it did have Chewie. First Star Wars movie without a C-3PO and R2-D2, by the way.
Interesting.
Although I do believe that Anthony Daniels had a cameo. I read somewhere that he was a Wookiee, but I can't imagine that he would actually have dressed up like a Wookiee.
So this was they were anticipating 150 to 160 million to be made by the 3-day Memorial Day weekend, not the 4-day, not including the day. So far, as of last night or this morning, it says
110.
It's estimated at about 103 mil domestically, and then foreign 65 mil. So
it bombed. It bombed overseas.
Yeah,
I think China.
So that's only worldwide of 168 million. But they were expecting the domestic to be up to 150, 160 by this time today. So
it's so much rides on that opening weekend.
It does. And like we said, it has been a very movie filled month between Deadpool, Avengers.
You still have Infinity Wars out there.
Yeah, and exactly. And Infinity Wars is still
Deadpool. You're only 1 week off from Deadpool.
Yeah. So
it was tough. There was a lot of competition.
It was tough, but yeah. So that's.
There was a line going because I saw in the Fishkill Regal, right, and there was a line to the ticket stand, and when I sat down, there was only like 5 or 6 other people. They were all going to see other things. So, I think you're right that there's just too much out there, and it's spreading the money.
Yeah. If this was scheduled like in March 15th, it would have had a way bigger opening.
Probably. Shame on them.
Agreed. Shame.
But
just they would know better.
So just a little idle chatter here. A little idle chatter here. So I read this little article and it's about Disney ruining something else, and this has to do with Infinity War. And do you guys remember the scene when Tony Stark pulled out his cell phone to call Captain
America?
Yeah.
Yes.
To
the
call
cell
him.
phone that he left him.
Right, and his number was on there.
Oh no!
Right?
Calling it?
Yes. No. Well, that was the whole thing. It was supposed to be an Easter egg, and the Russo brothers said that they were going to create a fake voicemail that was supposed to be Cap's voice, and it was supposed to be an Easter egg, and people started calling this number, and there was nothing there because Disney's legal team said no.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sure people are still calling it, so no.
Oh yeah, but it was just still why does Disney got to ruin it? that would have been so awesome.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
I still dial 867-5309 every now and again to look for Jenny, but.
Anyways, do we want to move on to our confessional question further this week?
The confessional.
We're going for the confessional?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready to confess.
So, the confessional question this week is, or I should say, what is or was your guilty pleasure TV show, current or past? Who would like to take the ball on this one first?
I went first before, so I will step back.
I'll go for it.
Go for it.
All right. So my guilty pleasure was Caprica, which was a spinoff of Battlestar Galactica. I doubt anyone who is listening to this has ever watched it or perhaps even heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
There were about 4 people that were watching that show.
Hey, listen, we've probably got about 4 listeners, and they probably all know what Caprica is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Galactica was, Sci-Fi's reboot of Galactica was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So when that went off the air, it's like they wanted to capitalize in any way, shape, or form.
You see, I enjoyed Caprica. I wouldn't consider that a guilty pleasure. I would proudly say.
And that was like a prequel. That was like a prequel setup because obviously Caprica is destroyed in the actual Galactica timeline.
It was. And it ended, I think, prematurely, did Caprica. I think that they were going places with that, and then it got canceled, and they had to wrap it up quickly. But
wrap it up?
Rest in peace.
Caprica.
So I'll go next.
Go ahead.
And this is a true guilty pleasure. And I can't say that I watched it just because my wife did. I enjoyed it as well. Gilmore Girls. You see, that's a guilty pleasure.
It is a guilty pleasure. There you go.
Good.
But just the rapid fire dialogue, the pop culture references, I promise you, if any of you watched 2 or 3 episodes of Gilmore Girls, you'd be hooked. Besides the last season.
Did they bring it back? Was there something I read?
They did on Netflix.
Netflix.
They put four movies out instead of a season. We watched them all.
Okay. They held up. Still guilty?
Yeah, still guilty. Still guilty.
Okay. All right.
It gave me my fix, my Gilmore fix.
That is that's a worthy addition.
When you were saying Gilmore Girls, I was picturing Golden Girls.
No. No, I don't even go that far into
come on, Rue McClanahan. She was in her heyday, man. She was looking to get down.
All right, who's gonna step up?
Let's go. I want David or Danielle right here, right now.
So mine, I guess I'm a sucker for some type of reality TV, even though it may not be considered reality TV.
Don't say it, Dave.
Oh,
Please
yeah.
don't say it.
I feel it's coming. I was just on the Jersey Shore.
It's got to be the Jersey Shore.
Oh!
It's just something about the drama, something that really brings you in, I guess. But that's...
Who's your favorite character, Dave?
I'm going to say there's DJ Pauly D.
Pauly D.
Yeah, he's just,
so well
just,
written. I mean,
he's just so, fly. He's fresh.
Is it the hair? Is it the hair?
Yeah,
for a
it's
white
something.
guy. So fly for a white guy.
Yeah.
Is he white?
Nah.
I can honestly say, outside of Snooki, I have no idea of anything. Although they brought him back, right? So the entire cast is back in a new show.
Yeah, almost
So
the entire cast.
No, so you must be
Minus
living
one
large. Because
female.
really, what were they doing? They weren't doing anything else.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure they're set for life.
Well, I would think that they probably plowed through whatever money they made.
Yeah, and I think
Candy supplies.
and I think like everybody, like the girls' husbands, all have jobs and they work still.
Oh, that's
and
good.
all that, so they're still living normal, I guess, if you will. But
There you go.
yeah, it's my guilty pleasure.
Nice.
That one.
Danielle.
I'm gonna have to go with the Kardashians.
Oh,
If you're gonna go,
my
go
God.
deep.
What a reality household that is.
We enjoy it.
I love them. I want to be friends with them. I want to hang out with them. I love them.
Are we okay with Caitlyn? Are we groovy with?
She's a Jenner.
Yeah, but isn't she still part of the show? Or
No,
she was.
no, they're feuding.
Yeah, but she was at one point. Bruce was a part of the show, correct? Or no?
Bruce was. Caitlyn's not.
So, okay.
Once Bruce
So
became
none of that drama carries over onto the TV show. They don't talk about her.
No, once Bruce became Caitlyn, she was in a couple of episodes in the earlier seasons once she transitioned, but now something happened and she wrote a book and it trashed Kris Jenner. So
tell-all book.
Yeah, so now she's
I would
not
think
allowed
it'd
on
be-
the Kardashians anymore.
I think there'd be at least one episode where we're all sitting around the table like, what the happened to that?
Is Kanye allowed?
Kanye does go on, but he doesn't go on too much, and Rob doesn't go on either.
Yeah, he's got to keep the mystique, does Kanye?
Yeah. So Jeff.
Okay. Well,
your last
anybody
year.
who knows me knows that I've been absolutely obsessed with Bigfoot since I was a child. Long before the internet, there was books, and I would read everything and anything. The 1967 Patterson video of Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, I actually used to track as the reports that Bigfoot was making his way somehow across the Canadian border to the eastern coast. I used to keep my window open just in case he ever came by. Yes.
Just to say hello, hey. How's it
Oh
going?
no, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I was a little over the top with it, but I love Finding Bigfoot, and I'll watch 10 episodes in a row. And my family has gotten at one point they were behind me in watching this show with me. And then what happened was every episode it was like, oh my God. And then they cut to a commercial and they cut back like, oh, it's a deer. So my family actually makes it a point to go, oh, wait, it's nothing. And it's like a running joke, but I don't care. I love watching this show. But
is that the Rob Lowe show?
Finding Bigfoot? No. This is the BFRO. This is the Bigfoot Research Organization. There's like 4 in the group. Big Bobo, big tall guy. Every week they're deploying some kind of a different device to track this thing. They never use the same technology twice. They use like drones with heat sensor cameras, or they'll set up these sensor traps. But if you believe the show, it's just like a Bigfoot in every friggin' state. They're like in my backyard. They're everywhere.
But isn't Rob Lowe doing one of these shows?
Yeah, I think he's now big.
Yeah.
Finding Bigfoot's been on for quite a few years now, and it's a BFRO is actually, it's a certified organization, and what they do is they'll follow up with a sighting. Somebody has reported this, and they think it's credible. They'll go to the location, and it's anywhere. It could be in Florida, it could be the Skunk Ape, it could be over here, Bigfoot or Sasquatch or stinky neighbor. It doesn't matter, and they will talk to the eyewitness, and then they'll try and figure out, all right, well, how tall was this thing? How fast was it walking? Is there video? Is there any kind of evidence? And then they go do these town hall meetings where they actually bring all these people, local people, together, and they're like, has anyone else had a sighting? Has anyone else had an encounter? And then based on that, they pull out this big map, and they plot out like 4 or 5 different locations and kind of pinpoint and said, all right, here's where we're going to go investigate. But yeah, I've been watching this show for 6-7 years, and they've never come across anything conclusive. So even, as guilty pleasure it is, I have to say at some point that, maybe this is not what I want it to be. The fact that Bobo, this is a big, huge guy. He once told a woman, the fact that you didn't see the Bigfoot proves that it was Bigfoot. like what kind of rationale is that? So that kind of dumped me down as far, but I still watch it. Josh Gates is the only other guy. Anything he's on, I'll watch. If you guys ever watch Expedition Unknown or any of those travel channels, he'll go chasing across the Himalayas for Yeti, or look for Blackbeard's gold. Yeah. So stuff like that. I'm always. I just I don't want the world to be unfull of mystery. Yeah, you can't tell me that we know everything about this planet. So I like to think that somewhere out there is this mythical creature that is just master hide and seek, and we haven't found him yet.
Well, that's very commendable, but I feel like you and Mike did not step up to this challenge. These are not guilty pleasures to nerds anywhere out there. I wanted to hear Dharma and Greg. I wanted to hear
Greg.
All right.
Like any other.
You want me to tell you that I'm absolutely loving the new season of Roseanne?
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that.
All right,
I've actually got my son invested in watching Roseanne.
Wow.
And Mike, come on, Supergirl. At least, come on, give up some Supergirl.
I'm going to give you mine. I'm going to give you mine. Antique Roadshow.
Mike, you know that you're not telling everyone, but it's Skin Tight on TLC after my 600-pound life.
Yes, indeed.
See, I guess we're getting
all right, now we're getting
busted. Anyways,
I don't have a lot of TV time. That's all there is to it. When I do, I look for Bigfoot.
Yeah. How about Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place?
Never seen it.
I love that one.
Never seen it.
Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. I'd silence crickets. What, does nobody know this?
I know it.
What are you talking about?
What?
But
Google it.
That lasted like 2 seasons.
It lasted more than 2 seasons.
George Clooney used to be on Roseanne.
No, Facts of Life.
Oh, that's right. Go back even deeper.
Yes.
Facts of Life.
So something too, which is interesting for those of you that know Sarah and Ross. They had like a Jack and Jill bachelor party, and they rented out the Jersey Shore house down there in Seaside Heights, and we actually slept there and partied there, and it was the worst smell inside that house. I can't even explain to you how badly it smelled inside that house, and I don't know if it was from the spray tan or just whatever it is that they have going on down there.
Bathrooms were carpeted.
Yeah, the bathrooms were carpeted.
Oh.
And it was UV light with you?
Did you walk barefoot?
It was just so bad.
Let me tell you, that house was never cleaner than after when I left it.
Oh my God, why would you clean it?
I packed my own bleach and a 6-pack of paper towels.
Else's house that you're renting. You're not even renting it.
I brought my own sheets and I changed the
well,
sheets.
Well, that's commendable.
Yeah.
I'd bring my own bed.
Well, that is a pilgrimage in itself, going to the Jersey Shore house for a party.
Yeah.
Hey, I could get on the Antiques Roadshow.
That was
By selling Snooki sheets.
Anyways, that pretty much is going to wrap it up for us this week, guys.
Oh, should we
So-
give our what we're going to do next week as our, since there's no big movie coming out, we're going to focus on TV.
Woo! Finally.
It is only the second part of the title, TV.
So
That's the
Jeff,
first part. Television, movies, and everything in between. We pretty much
seeing
touched
as a lot of our team has already seen the show, and it's only 8 episodes, and it's about 40 minutes ish per episode.
per episode.
It's a show. It's a Danish show called The Rain, and it's on Netflix.
I discovered it.
Is it
And you discovered it.
R-A-I-N or R-E-I-G-N?
No,
Rain
rain.
like raining from the sky.
So I should wear my...
I can't spell that right now, but yes, please.
I was going to say, do you not know how to spell the difference?
Please
What?
don't put me on the spot. So we're gonna watch this. So any of you listening out there who feel so inclined, please watch along and get ready for next week's episode. And our classic movie feature will be back next week. And as a tie-in to this, The Rain, which is about kind of like a biological virus that comes down in the rain and does some nasty things to people, we are going to investigate 28 Days Later. That will be our classic feature next week. The Rain
something I
will
actually
be
enjoy.
What?
I like that movie.
Tough critics over here, this Warhowski family.
Yeah, why aren't we watching the first one then? What happened in 28 Days?
Right.
Wait, isn't that what he
Isn't
said?
that a romance comedy with
That's a
Rodney
Sandra
Dangle?
Bullock movie. I think that's another podcast.
28 days. No, 28 weeks
28
is a
Days
sequel.
Later
28
is
weeks
the first
is a
movie.
yeah.
28 Weeks Later is the second.
No, I like
Okay,
28
all right.
days. Yeah.
So do I. Yeah. Okay, I'm down.
It's like basically what The Walking Dead
Cool.
based its first episode.
I'm not
I'm
entirely
I'm
my
sure there is a
library's gonna have-
podcast though that would like to discuss 28 Days. I'm sure. If we,
Do I have 28 days to watch it?
Negative.
Negatory.
I don't
You
think
have
my
about
library's
6
gonna have that.
days and 22 hours.
Counting.
In addition to The Rain, I've been Netflix binging a 4-episode. If you like true life stories, Evil Genius was fantastic. It's about the pizza bomber in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, she's good. That's all we've been hearing at work is the pizza bomber. The pizza
Oh my God,
bomber.
so fascinating. The guy walks into a bank and robs a bank, and he has got a bomb around his neck. Just watch it.
Okay.
4 episodes. They're like an hour each. Really good. And it's one of those. It's not one of those ones that keeps you hanging like a 48 hours mystery. It's somewhat solved by the end of it. And then
Does he survive?
the guy with the bomb around his neck. I'll let you figure that out.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. For the younger listeners, 13 Reasons Why Season 2 has come out. That's living up to expectations. I'm almost done with
What
that.
is that? I missed that.
13 Reasons Why.
Oh, I have heard good things about that.
Yep. And then another one that just popped up on my recommended for me is a Brazilian
Wax?
show.
Is that a waxing show?
No, it's like the Danish show, but Brazilian and dubbed into English. It's called
What is all this Danish stuff?
It's called 3%. And I watched the preview of it, and I think I'm going to invest the time into watching it. It's some sort of futuristic world where they you have to pass a test and scan in order, like it's a bunch of it's a poor country, and then if you pass all these tests and you get scanned into a better life where they have like advanced medical treatments and all that other stuff.
Interesting.
Which kind of reminded me of. I forget what movie it was. I think it was Matt Damon or someone.
Yes.
And they're
At the
I
island.
think it was called Elysium.
Elysium.
No, the
Great-
island was
great
the
movie.
Ewan McGregor movie.
I don't know.
Oh,
It
yeah.
reminded. I saw that it was like you put people in pods
Jodie
and like it
Foster.
cures cancer or something. He's trying to get this kid. Like
Yes,
it
that is
reminded me. It
Elysium.
reminded
That's
me of
Elysium.
that show, and it's like a story.
Only the elite. Yep.
Yeah, it's like that, and it's Brazilian, but it's dubbed into English, and it just looked really interesting. It's called 3%.
And I have to throw a shout out to Lost in Space.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Any nerds listening to this probably don't need us to tell them, but it's a really good show. I finished it this morning, episode 10, and it is pretty awesome.
I agree with you, but Mike, we turned him off pretty quickly. The reason he found out that it was a family drama was.
I think it owes a lot to a lot of sci-fi, and I saw echoes of the original Alien in there too.
Yeah, the fact that they kept the theme song, I like it. I like it. I like the show a lot.
All right.
Good. Definitely worth checking out.
All right. So The Rain,
that's
28 days later.
The Rain in 28 days, yeah. And whatever else we feel like talking about next week.
Yeah, so. I can't wait to talk about The Rain. I've got some stuff to say about this.
Oh, boy. I guess I need to watch this thing. Okay, I'm in. All right, let's go.
All right, let's go. We will see you guys next week for another episode of TMI. And shout out to everybody again listening and
shout out.
Checking in with all the social media stuff and all that great jazz. So, hey, thanks again. We'll see you guys later.
You got it.
Bye.
That's the way it is.
Oh!